I am delighted and honored to be here. This is my very first day in Morocco and in Marrakech, and of course my very first time on the African continent. So this is a momentous occasion for my wife and myself, and for Herr Sllf, our Vice President and Director of European Operations. And I am here to tell you a little bit about our organization, and then share with you what our aspirations are when I bring our delegation here later in the year, in late June and in early July. And then, this being a student body, there may be a question or two, and we can talk. So, about me and about our organization. A quick bit of history about the United States. Everybody here understands Washington. Well, no, nobody understands Washington. But everybody here knows of Washington, and that's the seat of our national government. But in the United States, virtually all authority is delegated to the 50 states, which retain great authority over the peoples that live within their borders. So Texas and Massachusetts and Michigan and Indiana, Iowa and New Hampshire, all have seats of government, and those governments control education, healthcare, the maintenance and the building of roads, and the like. And in those 50 states, the state legislature, which I represent, reigns supreme. It is the chief lawmaking body in the 50 state governments. And I represent the political leaders of those 50 state legislatures. We call these men and women speakers of the House, presidents of the Senate, majority leaders, and the minority leaders. Not unlike how they're designated in your parliamentary assemblies here in Morocco. And I'm bringing a whole bunch of them here to this campus in just a few short weeks. We will have at least 20, perhaps 22 or 23 of these political leaders representing 20 states. So these are, as we say in America, the top guns. These are the men and women that make the laws and direct the course of legislation. And joining them will be representatives of the corporate business community. You know these companies: Google, IBM, General Electric. We all use their stuff. And they are actually international companies, even though we call them American. Many of them do more business in Europe and in Africa than they do in the United States, so they are global citizens. And they have a keen interest as well in being here and being part of this delegation. So our organization, which has been around for 40 years, which is coincidentally how long I have been running this organization, our mission is to serve as an educational resource for these political leaders. The goal is to make them better informed about the critical public policy issues that they must confront in their jobs as lawmakers. We want to make them understand better what the needs of the American citizens are. We want them to understand what health care means in America. We want them to recognize what the needs of children, particularly children that come from disadvantaged families, are in America. We want them to understand how critical and how vital it is that we maintain a competitive education system. And perhaps above all else, we want them to recognize that they are global citizens, that the responsibilities they exercise within the borders of their states, go beyond the borders of their states, go beyond the borders of the United States. Our actions affect your livelihood. Our decisions concerning our economy, we're all interwoven now. And you very much recognize this whole global connection that we share. What we don't recognize yet fully is how deep this global connection will become in the future years. You are all students. You're all well-versed in Facebook. You are part of the social network. You may very well have friends in the United States and in Canada and throughout Africa and Europe that interconnect and interact. And increasingly, this will be our society. We will learn together. We will advance civilization together. If we fail in one area, eventually we will all fail. If we succeed, it will be because we worked together. Despite our different cultures, despite our different religions, despite our different histories, we truly are all citizens of this planet. We share the same earth, we share the same air. We have the same aspirations for our children. We want them to have better lives, very simply. We want to be happy in our activities. And so, when I think of programs like the program coming up here, this program is very much geared toward my American colleagues learning more about the people of Morocco and seeing with their own eyes this beautiful country and having an opportunity to meet their students and to meet their business leaders and their political leaders and to talk about things that are common to all of us. So I've done some research, of course, looking at Morocco to understand, to get a better sense of this country's aspirations and its history. And like everywhere I go in the world, your history is 10 times, 20 times longer than our history. I mean, we're infants. I look back and I see that it goes over 12 millennia, 12 centuries. You can begin to talk about Morocco. Well, here in the United States, we're barely 2.5 centuries old. And I look at the fact of Morocco's strategic location in the northwestern tip of Africa. And all of the European nations over the centuries that have had a great interest in you and have wanted you to be part of their little empires. The French, the Spaniards, the Portuguese, I think, even the ancient Romans, I think, made inroads into Morocco some thousands of years ago. But like where my ancestors come from, in Greece, you've managed to hold on to your cultural integrity. Moroccans are Moroccans are Moroccans. Despite the various invasions, despite the people who have laid claim to your resources, one can readily understand that this is a very proud country with extraordinary traditions and magnificent beauty that we've only begun to sample. So what do I want my Americans, our colleagues, to come away with after they've been here? Well, I want them to have a sense of what is going on in Morocco, in their government, and what it holds for the future. The Arab world, of course, is very much in the minds of everybody these days. And we recognize that the Arab world is part of our own world, and that we must embrace it and that we must understand it. So one of our goals will be to expose our members to this very progressive, very forward-looking society, which has deep roots in Arabic culture, and yet looks to the West, and yet one can see the influence of Europe throughout this entire society. And I see this as being a perfect example of what one can expect throughout the world, this blending of cultures and societies. And I'm also aware that over the last several years, your king has implemented a variety of democratic reforms. Now, I don't want to get into the politics, especially with a bunch of students about these reforms. But to my mind's eye, they look as if they're geared toward allowing the citizens to have greater authority over their lives. It appears to my mind's eye that there is a further delegation of authority from the central government to the parliaments and to the various regions throughout Morocco. And being an American and a citizen of the United States, we look at this favorably. We look at this favorably because we recognize that it is the aspiration of all people to be free. Self-determination, we call it. But we also are very cognizant that Morocco will approach these types of reforms in a uniquely Moroccan way, blending the traditions of Islam with the traditions of democracy, coming up with your own unique civilization and your own unique vision of the 21st century. So I want the Americans to understand how Morocco is progressing and what Morocco's aspirations are. It's a truism that all of you probably are well aware of. Each and every one of you knows far more about the United States and the New York Yankees, or the Boston Red Sox, or President Obama than we know about your country. We Americans, even though increasingly it's a global world, remain insulated. We are a large country. We have enough going on so that all you could do is spend your time worrying about what is going on in Boston or California or Texas. We do look outside of our borders, but I would tell you that there would be many Americans that wouldn't know who the Prime Minister of Canada is. We're just not that aware of these things, and we need to become more and more aware of the world in which we live in. And so, when they come to America, when they come to Morocco, this is an opportunity for them to have their eyes open. This is an opportunity for them to see an important part of the world, a progressive society on the move, and to appreciate the aspirations and to meet the students, as well as to meet other people within this society and to see the magnificent wonders that have been erected over the centuries here in Morocco. So that's our side of it. If I were to suggest what I hope Morocco will be able to do with our American guests, well, I guess I would say having a forum like this would be wonderful, where I would be able to present to you some of our legislative leaders, to talk to you about what it's like in our states or in our governments and how we work things, so that we can have an exchange, a dialogue. And I would hope that the program that we will have when we come here will not be so formal that it'll be just this large group of Americans traveling around, never interacting with the people. We will not do that. We will have a program where we will be with the Moroccans as much as they want to be with us, enjoying their company. Because I always set forth as well, why are you doing this program? What is one of your objectives? So I would say that at the top of my list, and this is not this is nothing earth-shattering, but at the top of my list is this whole notion of establishing new friendships, of starting to build new lines of communication and cooperation. Perhaps there are exchange student opportunities for you university students with universities throughout the United States. You know we have a very, very well-developed private university system, as we do our state university system. And these political leaders that will be here are very, very engaged with their universities at a very, very deep level. And so, if it arises that the president of the university presents me with some thoughts or opportunities about students that might like to study abroad, and vice versa, we would like to promote that. We would like to leave Morocco saying that this was only our first visit in what will be many, many future visits to come. I was struck when I was reading about the geography of Morocco, and it said that if you stand on the shore of the north, you can look to the west and you can see the Atlantic Ocean, and to the east, the Mediterranean. And it seemed a perfect metaphor for this country. And I thought of myself, me being a citizen of the United States and an American citizen, yet my roots are in the Mediterranean to the west. And how many of our fellow American citizens will have the same sentiment when they come here. So I am expecting a marvelous, very enthusiastic delegation of Americans to participate in this program. And I am hopeful that they will be received with the same enthusiasm that we will bring to your country. Now, I'm going to stop here. I probably talked too long, but I would certainly be more than happy to take questions and try to answer them as best I can. I would make one little comment. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the fact that we had a terrorist incident in Boston, Massachusetts. I thought, should I bring this up, because the whole world understands terrorism. Well, we understand terrorism very, very well from 9/11. And I was also mindful of the fact that I think Morocco was the first country in the Arab world to express its sincere condolences and support for the United States after that incident. It is not lost on us. We remember that friendship. And I can only tell you, I come from Boston, and so we had a terrible, horrific event at our premier sporting event in the city of Boston, and one of the world's premier events, the Boston Marathon. And without getting into the details of it, because again, I think you all well understand how senseless these acts of terrorism are and violence. But, I mean, it affected me because my parents were locked in their house. The city was shut down, and they lived right in the area where the guns were going off from the explosions. And it was like right in your face. This whole notion of, my God, what is going on here? How could this happen in our society? So I think, again, it's another example about how everything is connected, and we are all sharing the same kinds of experiences here, for better or for worse. And I think that as we look forward to the future, the only solution to these, in this case, these, I would call them senseless acts of terrorism and violence, but also to our future prosperity, will be our capacity to understand each other and to work together for the common goodwill of all mankind. Thank you very much.